Okay, in this video I'm going to basically walk you through how to create and identify if there's any association rules that might be of interest. This again is based off of an exercise from the book, Chapter 5 of Data Mining for the Masses. In this particular video I have moved over now to RapidMiner 6 since most of the students apparently are now using RapidMiner 6. Um, that's based on some of the questions I've gotten. So now um, I've already brought in the data in the same way we normally do with bringing in a comma separated file. I actually have already brought it in. I'm just going to bring it up here, and it's the data from chapter 5. And like before, if we want to sort of take a quick look at it, we could connect it and go ahead and run it. And if we run it, we'll find that our data is, if you've read through the chapter 5, you can see that it looks pretty familiar. One of the nice things, though, about RapidMiner 6, though, is that the user interface is somewhat clean in some aspects, in that we get our statistics here, but we can also get some scattered charts, and based upon some of the attributes, we can get these scatter diagrams based upon two different attributes quite easily, which can sometimes help to sort of identify whether or not visually we can see that there's a pattern. So if we go back to the design mode, in terms of doing our association, one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to decide which attributes we want to work with. And so we're going to create go up to the attribute, and we're going to go ahead and select our attributes, find the operator for that, and select attribute. And I'm going to go ahead and move that operator over here, and I'm going to hook it up. Okay. Now if I come in here into the attributes, I'm going to change this to I basically want a subset of the attributes, and now I can go ahead, after I change the filter type here to subset, I can go ahead and select the attributes, and the attributes I'm going to be concerned with are things such as the hobbies, the political, professional, family, religious, social club, and support group. These are sort of the different types of groups. I'm trying to look to see if there's an association between them. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit apply here. And so what this operation does is I have my entire input file coming into it, but I am now basically only selecting those attributes that I just went through. And so we're going to drop off 5 of the attributes. Now, because of the way the algorithm for doing our association works, we basically need to convert our data to be, instead of numeric, we need to be a binomial. And so we're going to come back over here to our operator. I'm going to add an operator that allows us to change things from numeric to binomial. And so I'm going to drag that over here, and I'm going to hook that up. And now if we look at our data, pause it there long enough, I guess I can get it. Instead of having zeros and ones now, you'll see that it is now changed to true and false. That's because of that operator that we just put in, and our algorithm requires it. Now, there are different types of association rules, and we're just going to use, consistently, we'll stick with one that they use in the book, and we're going to use FP growth. I'm going to go ahead and bring it into the model, and again, bring it down here, and we could bring this over here, and we can try and bring it over here, get that connection, and if we run this, one of the things we'll discover in terms of our result, um, we really don't see anything yet that's of any consequence. And that's because when I did the design here, I only brought over, I didn't actually bring in all of the parameters I needed. So now if I run it, we'll see that we have some items and some support for some items in terms of there's some relationship between them. But it looks like there's something between groups that have a religious affiliation and family, along with groups that have between families and groups that are religious. And so, in terms of organizations that are based upon, and that's based upon the data set and the explanation from the chapter. Now, if we go back to design, we still want to go ahead and we want to create some rules. And to find our associations and what rules we want to do, we're just going to create association, and we're going to bring that operator in. Okay. Now, get over here and bring that up. Now, if we go ahead and run this again, just like if you've read the chapter, and we find that as we look at this, there's no rules found. And it's like, well, wait a minute. We did all that work and we didn't find anything. As the chapter points out, the CRISP model, the process is inherently a process that requires us often to go back and revise, and it's an iterative type of process. And so if I come back over here to design, and when I dropped in the create association rules, I simply kept the parameters over here the same as they were. I did not change any of them. And so one of the reasons we don't have any rules is the minimum confidence that's required here is 0.8. If we go ahead and drop that down to 0.5, all right, and the chapter goes through and gives you an explanation of what that parameter means. And since right now I'm just trying to help you see the tool and use the tool, I'm not going to repeat that explanation, but it basically has to do with looking at the number of times that those things occur together versus how many times the one item or the other item occurs. So now if we go ahead and run this, we do find that hopefully we now have some rules, except for the fact that when we run it, we do not. And so that's because when I came over here, I started talking and I didn't leave it at 0.5. I simply kept talking. Now if I run it, all right, and we find that we indeed have some rules where we have some person is part of a religious group, there's a good chance that they'll be involved with a group that's family. And we can look at the amount of support we have and the number of confidence. And you notice we dropped our confidence down to 0.5 as our cutoff from 0.8. And that's why these 4 didn't show up before. If we change it to 0.6, we'd only get this bottom one here. So, well, that's a fairly quick run through in terms of the mechanics of creating these association rules, and that should get you up and off the ground for being able to do the exercise. So that's it for this video.